My skin got a story in it. Old rose in my bones. They call me by a number, but I know my name at home. Chain on my neck with the line still lives. And way I walk and way I get. Less to the promise, that's where I fit. I've been chosen, I can feel it. Tell me who I am when the mirror won't lie. Tell me where I came from. It's written in my eyes. I was set apart long before the hurt. The son of the promise. On this earth, house of Israel, that's who I am. House of Israel, blood in the plan. Not by the label, not by the cage, ancient heritage, calling my name. House of Israel, I know the truth. House of Israel, living in you. They try to bury kings in the headlines. Tried to paint my crown in shame, but the old words still find me. When I speak and I pray, from the fields to the blocks, still rising. Through the fire, still a sign. Everyone got a witness, every scar got a sign. I'm not lost in the crowd, I'm not here by mistake. There's a covenant on my breath, bro, that the world can't break. Tell me who I am when the mirror won't lie. Tell me where I came from, it's written in my eyes. I was set apart long before the hurt, the son of the promise. On this earth, house of Israel, that's who I am. House of Israel, blood in the plan. Not by the label, not by the gauge, ancient heritage, calling my name. I'm House of Israel, I know the truth. House of Israel. And if they strip the names away, I still stand on what was spoken. If the world don't see the line stays unbroken. From father to son, through the night, we remember. I was made for more than sight. I was made for the sinner. House of Israel, that's who I am. House of Israel, blood and the plan. Not by the label, not by the cage, ancient heritage, calling my name. House of Israel, I know the truth. House of Israel. I'm still standing. Yeah. I'm just trying to walk with God in the world gone wild. Pressure on my back, but I'm still God's child. Everybody chasing lights, everybody chasing clout. I'm chasing something higher, I can't sell my soul out. Phone blowing up, temptation on the screen. Everybody showing things that ain't what they seem. They say, come on, live a little, everybody doing it. But I know who I am, I ain't falling into it. Bills on my mind, got stress in my chest. Trying to keep faith while I'm giving my best. Some days I feel weak, some days I feel low. But I pray through the pain and I keep moving forward. They don't understand why I move like this. Why I choose the truth when the world gets slick. I could go with the crowd, but that ain't my road. I'd rather walk with God than carry that load. It's hard being a child of God in a world where they don't wanna hear the truth. Everybody wanna pull you down, but I'm still holding on to you. I've been through pressure, I've been through pain. Still got faith when it pours like rain. World going crazy, but I know my God. I'm standing 10 toes, child of God. They want me distracted, they want me asleep. Everything looking good, but the soul ain't free. Money can't save you, fame can't heal. 1,000 followers don't tell you what's real. I've seen people switch when the pressure came. I seen love disappear over money and fame. So I keep my circle tight and my vision clear. If God is beside me, I don't gotta fear. Mama said pray when the road gets rough. Father said trust when the world gets tough. So every morning when I open my eyes, I thank God for another day to survive. It's hard being a child of God in a world where they don't wanna hear the truth. child of God. When I'm tired, you give me strength. When I'm lost, you make a way. When the whole world turns against me, I know you still know my name. I won't trade my soul for nothing. I won't bow just to fit in. If I gotta walk alone sometimes, I walk with God until the end. Oh, I've been a child of God, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. Pressure coming from every side, still protecting what's inside. 10 toes, I'm standing firm through the fire. No, I learned. World might change, but God won't. I'm His child, and I know I won't. Yeah. They can keep the fight, they can keep the clout. I'm choosing God every time.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. Peace, brothers and sisters. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Wake Up Call, where we talk about biblical prophecy and tie it to current events happening within like a week's time. A lot of stuff's going on. Hard to put everything into one class, but we do what we can, okay? First, let's give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father. Yahweh Shai being the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Kwom Yasha'ala means rise Israel. Who is Israel? Who are the Israelites? The so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, according to the Bible, on their father's side. Okay. Hey, double honors to our elders that are still waking up the lost sheep of the house of Israel in these last days, these obvious last days. So let's get it. First, we're going to start off with the Lord's Prayer. This is in Paleo Hebrew. You can find it in Matthew chapter 6, verse 9 through 13. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Haya, Shemka, Yahweh, Malafaka, Thaba'a, Ratazaka, Haya, Aisha, Barataza, Kawa, Haya, Bashamayim, Natananawa, Lacham, Kau, Yawam, Wasalafnawa, Kabawahnawa, Kasalafnawa, Kabawafyanawa, Wala'a, Thabianawa, Bunasai 1, Abal, Hawashayanawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Watapalaraf, Aman. Yeah, because Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus, said, after this manner, therefore pray ye. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do what Christ says, and He's coming by way of His Heavenly Father, of His Father, Yahweh. So this is called from Penn State to the state Penn. Esau went from having a scholarship, you know what I mean, a collegiate road to a degree, to now he is on Selbach D. You know what I mean? Went from collegiate to cokehead. You know what I mean? And all in a matter of like that. Like the Most High talks about that. He says, I could bring you from the top to the bottom. You know what I mean? He could build you up or he could ruin you. We ask humbly that He builds us up, right? But Esau, no place of repentance for Esau. So it's just going to be constant, battles of getting destroyed in every way possible. They called the guy Pablo Pledgegabar or something like that. He had them chopping up keys, you know what I'm saying? Like Scarface, like Nino in the Carter. You know what I mean? And Nino had everybody naked with the COVID mask before COVID was out. Had the COVID mask and the gloves, chopping up bricks. That's what Esau was doing to the people that were pledging his fraternity. They still call them a fraternity. Ironically, they're not a gang or Rico Act or, you know what I'm saying? None of that. Pablo Pledgeskabar, internet nickname. You know what I'm saying? He's running a major cocaine distribution ring to fraternities at Penn State University. Now, listen, major cocaine distribution, right? They had the bull. Some guy was from Media, Pennsylvania, right? They're talking about the local ties in Philadelphia. One guy's from Media, Pennsylvania. The other guy's from I think Jersey, someplace in Jersey, or still Pennsylvania. I'm not sure, but they get charged with misdemeanors. A major cocaine distribution operation. That's a RICO. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, life. You know what I mean? Racketeering. Embezzlement. Where's this money going? Who's getting this money? You know what I mean? Had to do multiple legal activities. He had to transport it from one place to another, and it's a school zone, so a misdemeanor. But it's all good. We ain't gonna trip over that. But yeah. See how much time they get. Be the way, the embarrassment is. It's telling. You know what I'm saying? All praise to the Most High. But let's start. We're going to do something different this week. Normally at the end, we go with the health and wellness. I want to start off with that. I want this to be a spiritual class. We're going to talk about all the things that's going on spiritually tied into the Bible. But let's see what they doing to us. Let's go to Lamentations chapter 5, verse 5. Right? Once we know what Satan's doing, we gotta spin move. We gotta dip, dip set, block, you know what I mean? Gotta block what Satan trying to do. He's trying to get us in that hospital, trying to get us in the spittle and then put us in the morgue, get us on dialysis, get our kidneys out of here, get our liver out of here. He trying it, but we gonna combat it. All right? We're going to combat what Satan is trying to do.
Khan. This is the book of Lamentations, chapter 5, verse 5. Our necks are under persecution. We labor and have no rest.
Khan, so this is, time of Jeremiah. A lot hasn't changed. I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same. We labor and have no rest. Khan, read on.
We have given a land to the Egyptians and to Assyrians to be satisfied with bread.
So we gotta beg our enemies. We gotta beg the people that we're under in this current captivity for bread. And the crazy part is the bread is terrible. The bread is a part that's killing us allegedly. You know what I mean? This isn't medical advice, but damn it, we about to listen to a medical doctor talk about it. You know what I mean? The potassium bromine, I believe it's called. You know what I mean? And it's banned in multiple countries, but America just knows it's still good. Oh, it's good here in America. All lies, man. All lies. But let's look at this. So there's another thing we can check out. Of course, when we during Passover, we make sure that it doesn't have any leavening agents and stuff in the bread and all that, right? The yeast, rather. So with this, it's another thing to check out the ingredients. You see potassium bromine, you gotta be like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? There's other breads that does have that, and even look into making your own. You know what I mean? Making your own bread. Like our ancestors used to do. We had to go to the store and just, spend $5-10 on some bread. Boom, we go right to the, store, market, whatever.
Europe is famous for its...
Slack it. Go to the market and get the ingredients to make bread. What is it? Flour, water. We make unleavened bread during Passover. So this is something we really should look into, especially for not just for us, but for our families. But let's continue on.
Europe is famous for its bread and pizza for that matter, but there's one ingredient that they don't put in these foods, and it's called potassium bromate. This chemical is a suspected carcinogen that's banned for human consumption in Europe, as well as Canada, Brazil, China, and India, but not the United States. So in the US, this chemical is used by some food makers, usually in the form of fine crystals or powder, to strengthen the dough, and it's estimated to be present in more than 100 products. Now, in tests in lab animals, exposure to potassium bromate increased the incidence of both benign and malignant tumors in the thyroid, so right here, as well as the peritoneum, which is the membrane that lines your abdominal cavity. Now, later research confirmed these and expanded on these findings, concluding that ingesting potassium bromate resulted in significant increases in cancer of the animal's kidneys, thyroid, and other organs. Potassium bromate also has the potential to disrupt the genetic material within cells. Now, upon entering the body, potassium bromate can be transformed into molecules called oxides and radicals. These highly reactive molecules can damage DNA and may play a role in the development of cancer. Researchers have observed such damage in human liver and intestine cells, where exposure to this chemical resulted in breaks in DNA strands. Potassium bromate can also irritate the lungs. Repeated exposure can cause bronchitis, which is inflammation of the lining of the lungs, where you get cough and phlegm buildup, and sometimes even shortness of breath. It can also affect our brain, leading to symptoms of headache, having foggy thinking, and even irritability. Despite the significant evidence of potassium bromate's harmful health effects, the food industry has long argued that it's of no concern in baked products. The industry claims that potassium bromate is theoretically fully converted into potassium bromide, a similar yet non-carcinogenic chemical, during the baking process. So the heating from the oven converts this to the benign form of the chemical, but the reality is that not all of it gets converted into this benign form. In fact, testing in the United Kingdom revealed that potassium bromate remains detectable after baking, with 6 out of 6 unwrapped breads and 7 out of 22 packaged breads containing measurable levels of potassium bromate. California is the only state to have taken measures to warn residents of the dangers associated with it, placing potassium bromate on its Proposition 65 list, which means that products that contain it must carry a cancer warning on their labels. But as far as the United States is concerned, that's it, just California doing that. Now, European regulators, they take a much more cautious approach to food safety compared to the United States. So one has to wonder, does that mean that the differences in regulations mean Americans have developed cancers that they would not have otherwise developed had they been eating European food instead? Although it's difficult to prove, it seems that this is to be the case. And it's actually not just potassium bromate that is banned in Europe, but allowed in the United States. There's other harmful substances like the ones that I'm listing here on the screen. So what is the FDA's take on this? They say that all food additives require pre-market evaluation and that regulations require evidence that each substance is safe at its intended level of use before it may be added to foods. Once that approval happens, so in other words, post-approval, scientists at the FDA, they continue to review relevant new information to determine whether there are safety questions and whether the use of such substances is no longer safe. The FDA is on record for saying that when used properly, potassium bromate converts into a harmless substance during food production, specifically during the baking process. But like I said earlier, it's well known that not all of that potassium bromate used in any given recipe will convert during the baking process to potassium bromide. And so the FDA has even acknowledged this. In the United States, the FDA allows the use of potassium bromate as a food additive, but any food containing potassium bromate must be labeled as such. However, many bakers and food manufacturers have actually voluntarily stopped using this chemical in their products due to the concerns about its potential health risks. Foods that may contain potassium bromate include bread, including white bread and whole wheat bread, some bagels, pizza dough, tortillas, English muffins, hamburger, hot dog buns, rolls, and croissants. Now, it's important to note that not all baked goods contain potassium bromate, and that many bakers and manufacturers have found alternative ways to achieve the same effects on that dough texture without using that chemical. So if you're concerned about the potential risks of potassium bromate, you can check the ingredients list on the packaging of baked goods or look for products that are labeled as bromate-free.
Okay, so we see what Esau has done. He's trying to get everybody, in a cancerous state, right? Kidney failure, liver problems, on dialysis, you know what I'm saying? And make money off it. You know what I'm saying? But we got to keep in mind that once we know better, we got to do better. And he was like, man, that the other bread, because bread, first of all, don't last forever. You buy bread and it don't go moldy in like a month or something. It's something in that bread you got to check out. All right. You buy bread, you're going to have to eat that thing sooner than later. Okay. But you like, you know what? I can't afford that $8, $10 bread. Da da da. Well, stop eating bread. How about that? You know what I mean? We're gonna have to make some changes, some lifestyle changes. Make, like I said, make some of your own bread. But don't wait until your kidneys are failing and be like, all right, hold on, I gotta switch things up. You know what I mean? I mean, if they are, definitely switch things up. But if you relatively healthy right now, switch it up. You know what I mean? Look at the bread that you normally get, that you feed your children and your household. See if it has potassium bromate in it, and start voting, I guess, with your dollars. You know what I mean? But where you put your money at, that's you gonna tell them how to treat you. Okay. Now we're gonna talk about what we got. Kind of average bread life lasts 3 to 7 days at room temperature. Okay, so if you got bread that's 2 months old and you ain't got no mold on it, it is something with that bread. There's something in those ingredients that probably is not healthy for you. Okay, 3 to 7 days. So you buy a loaf of bread. Guess what? We having sandwiches today. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna wait a month to have our first sandwich. We gonna eat this bread. You dig? And it's something as simple as that they put, allegedly they put cancerous ingredients in, that we know we got to get out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? It's time to go. So we got to do everything in our power to, speed up this captivity if possible. Because you might say, well, you can't speed up the Most High and this, that, and the third. But in ancient Egypt, he heard our voice, and then he told Moses, like, I hear the groanings of the children of Israel. So fast forward to the modern day Egypt, we're going to do the same thing, all right? And we're going to talk about the meditation and how that's working. Some crazy stuff happened today. You might have heard about it, but we're going to talk about it, okay? Especially an important day like today, we reading the scriptures, we doing the work, fasting, right? If you are also fasting today from Wednesday sundown to Thursday sundown, very powerful, right? And at the end of this class, we're going to do our meditation, also very powerful. So we're doing some things, Most High willing, to get the Lord's attention, that we want to get the heck out of here, you know what I'm saying, sooner than later. Tired of eating cancerous bread, okay? And hopefully you are too. Let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 6. But, we can see that the Lord is putting in a massive amount of work. It's massive. You know what I'm saying? Just to put things in, and a lot of things are happening to us too. You know what I'm saying? It's not just Esau and other nations. You know what I mean? The Lord is allowing Esau to lynch us in pretty much every state in America. And then they immediately say, oh, that's suicide. I mean, he unalived himself. You know what I mean? So it's judgment to go around. He said judgment's going to begin with the house of the Lord, right? With the house of God. But we're going to talk about, for right now, what's happening with Esau. And it is crazy. Okay? Kind of king.
This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 6, verse 6. Then did I consider these things, and they were made through me alone, and through none other. By me also they shall be ended, and by none other.
So, Heavenly Father's like, look, I made Esau, I'm going to take him out. Okay? I made these heathens, I'm going to take them out. So when you start to see some things happening over and over again, you're like, wait a minute. Why are planes just falling out the sky all of a sudden? Like back to back to back to back. Alaska, Colorado, helicopter with U.S. service members in. Kenya. You know what I mean? Just back to back to back. I'm like, I'm gonna look into that, right? Then we see that Esau has been pretty much getting maxed out by his own people. You know what I'm saying? So let's check this next one out, because it is a dangerous place. The most dangerous place, right? They say the most dangerous place is to be in the womb of a black woman because of abortion. Now they take away abortion because their people aren't having, Esau is not having children. The women aren't having children like that. So now the most dangerous place to be is not smack dab in the hoods and ghettos across America. It is at the dinner table of a so-called white man and their family, or in the household. This place is dangerous, man. They never know what's about to happen. You know what I mean? When a murderous rage just gets on them, that spirit, or manifests itself, man, listen. So let's watch this. And the ironic part about this, I'm about to put on. Ironic part about it is the wife of this cop was like running like a nonprofit for cops that unalive themselves. And let's see what happens.
First at 6, a lot of new information in the death of Worcester police officer Kurt Solomon and the search for his wife. Investigators revealing today they have issued a warrant for Karen Solomon's arrest for assault and battery. Solomon's been missing since her husband, Worcester police officer Kurt Solomon, was found dead Tuesday at their home. Police confirmed his service weapon is not missing, but still consider her armed and dangerous. We're also learning about funeral arrangements for Officer Solomon. He'll be laid to rest Wednesday in Worcester at Our Lady of the Angels Church on Main Street. Mass will be at 11 a.m. He'll be buried at Worcester County Memorial Park in Paxton. Family says he was a son, father, and brother, and proudly served in the U.S. Army in Germany before spending more than 3 decades in the Worcester Police Department. Also new tonight, Boston 25 has obtained emergency transmission, shedding new light on what unfolded at the home Tuesday morning. A warning, though, some of this may be hard to hear.
Residents stated there's a male laid out in her backyard, unknown breathing. Her voicemail on her phone says it's a Karen Solomon.
Boston 25 News reporter Carly Dion is live in Worcester with more on this breaking news. You were able to ask a lot of questions at a news conference this afternoon about what's been happening.
And Cale, Worcester's police chief tells us an arrest warrant was issued for Karen Solomon 2 days ago, and she is being charged with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon with serious bodily injury. Now, earlier this week, Worcester police officer Kurt Solomon was found dead at his home, outside his home on Wildwood Avenue. Since then, police have continued searching for his wife, Karen Solomon, releasing ring camera video of Karen walking by a business not far from her house shortly after Kurt's body was found. Police seem to primarily focus their search around Coast Pond, but as of this afternoon, the search continues with parks in the area now closed to the public. Here's more on what officials had to say during today's news conference.
Why did you decide today to shut down these areas around the pond?
Well, we're going by what the professionals are saying as far as divers. We've had dogs out there. We've got sonar, different technologies, and if you can see, the current is actually running this way. So we got to go by what the environment poses, and that conditions our search. His service weapon was not missing from his home. But again, we still believe she may be armed and dangerous. We want to keep that out there.
Are you able to explain why you believe that?
The nature of the injury was a sharp object. So we don't know, anymore. We can't really release more details just based on ongoing investigation.
And today we also received some of the dispatch calls from when officers first arrived to the Solomon home on Tuesday morning. And it is believed the person who called 911 initially that morning may have been Karen Solomon. We'll have more on this coming up tonight at 10. Live in Worcester, Carly Dion for your local station, Boston 25 News.
Carly, thank you very much. And from Carly, we want to bring in Boston 25 law enforcement analyst Todd McGee joining us again this evening. Todd, thanks for being here.
Hi, Kid. Lots to talk about.
Police say they issued a warrant 2 days ago, Todd, for Karen Solomon's arrest on assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, not for murder here. Does that tell us anything about what authorities think may have happened?
Well, most likely, once the medical examiner examined the body, there's most likely of Officer Solomon, most likely that information was then transferred over to the investigators. And then from there, the investigators will be able to kind of surmise what type of weapon was used allegedly in this investigation. So whatever transpired early in those early hours of the morning, that information, and again, would be corroborated with the medical examiner's office and then correlate itself back out to the field into the investigation.
Does the assault and battery, though, charge itself tell us anything?
It does. It could be something where the weapon used, again, may not have been the service revolver or another firearm. There could have been a situation where the initial interaction between the husband and wife may have yielded certain information. So those charges could change as the investigation develops and as more information is revealed.
Police said that they were going to send out another reverse 911 call this afternoon to people near the Solomon home. They've been in that neighborhood now for 4 days, same at the pond. What do you think they're missing or trying to narrow down at this point?
You know, where they had ended up discontinuing the search yesterday and resumed again this morning, that tells me that they may be looking for more than just Karen. They could be looking for more evidence, such as a weapon. I've been involved in certain searches in my career, looking for weapons in particular areas where they believe items could have been tossed, could have been discarded, and so that also would give another direction of the investigation, especially with the dive team present. If they were looking for her body, if she had harmed herself, that body of water isn't deep. And if there was a body they were looking for, they'd be able to see that right away.
Is the risk to the public, you think, still as high as it was on Tuesday in the immediate aftermath of this? Again, we're 4 days out from this, no sign of her, at least none that's been made public. Is the risk to the public still as high?
Well, you know, it's difficult to assess. You know, we have someone on the run from evading law enforcement, you know, again, essentially unstable with not making the best decisions. And I always like to say desperate people do desperate things. So you heard the chief mention that they still consider her armed and dangerous based on their information. I think we need to go by what the chief is putting out to the general public.
Well, and as you pointed out at 5 o'clock, this is a police department that is both investigating and mourning at the same time. Boston 25 law enforcement analyst Todd McGee, thank you for speaking with us here at 6.
So, a couple things to unpack there. One thing, she's charged with assault and battery. Yeah, I don't think that guy's getting up. If they're doing funeral arrangements, you know what I mean? It's a little bit more than assault and battery. Okay, so one thing we noticed, this goes without saying that we usually get over policed and overcharged, and Esau gets under policed and undercharged. So wife maxes him out in the house, leaves out. She's on a 4-day manhunt, but she's charged with assault and battery. Right. And the Jake, who they're interviewing, you know what I mean, he's supposed to be the expert. He can't even, and you see how police talk, you know what I mean? They always try to help out each other. And that means, you know, lying, of course, writing down the incident report and minimizing what they did, their role, their partner's role, this, that, and the third. And you can see this guy's not even a cop. He's just, you know, supposed to be an expert. And he can't even answer a simple question. He's like, so, assault and battery, is that something, you know, what should we look into that? Yeah, because the service weapon, and when it happened, the call came out and it was sent over. And, you know, that is the, you know, what occurred. Esau was like, yeah, you didn't answer my question, so I'm asking it again. You know what I'm saying? Like, what does assault and battery mean? You know what I mean? So, Not going to get any help from the so-called police, no help from the so-called government. Our help comes from above. Let's get Isaiah chapter 49 and verse 26, because this is only going to get worse. Esau is in a dangerous position. Spouse or whatever, she did things to help out cops that were dealing with unaliving themselves, and hate to I want to give away the ending. She didn't make it. They find her in the woods with a self-inflicted, you know what I'm saying, and she didn't make it. So that was her job, and this is how it all ended up. So yeah, welcome to America, King.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 49, verse 26. And I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh, and they should be drunken with their own blood, as with sweet wine. And all flesh should know that I am Shalakia. And all flesh should know that I, the Lord, am thy Savior, and thy Redeemer, and the mighty one of Jacob.
So yeah, how about Shemar Shai says, I'm going to have your oppressors X each other out. That's what he's saying there. I'm going to have your oppressors unalive each other. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to get your hands dirty. You don't got to pop the trunk. You ain't got to make it dump. You ain't got to spin the block. You ain't got to do none of that. You keep the law, statutes, commandments, pray, fast, meditate, talk to your Heavenly Father. And we'll be, seeing some amazing things happen. And our enemies just getting knocked off. Boom, 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 boom. Boston. Come on, man. Boston. When you look into the history of Boston and the history of slavery, the history of oppression of our people, and the gaslighting, all that stuff, Boston's big. Boston's big on that. You know what I mean? So that cop probably Billy clubbed his last Negro, and the Most High was not having it. Let's continue on, okay? Let's go to Esther chapter 9 and verse 10. Esther chapter 9, verse 10. It is not enough in the eyes of the Most High, obviously, when we see the next video, for just the husband to take out the wife. Now, that was different because the wife took out the husband. You know what I mean? When we look at the news and everything, it's usually the other way around. The aggressor and the violent one is the husband. The wife took him out. Now, one thing, like you said, they protect their own, right? So he could have been smacking her around, and she just got fed up and, started playing poker. But we don't know because they're not going to tell us. But with this situation, this is pretty much out there because ain't nobody making it in this joint. Sitting at the dinner table with Esau is very, very dangerous. Go ahead, King, you can bring it out.
This is the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 10. The 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hamadatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid they not their hand.
Khan, can you go to the pictures? I sent 2 pictures. It's pretty crazy. You know what I mean? Esau, I seen this video, right? Sister sent me this video with Esau being upset, and like how he gets like, dag nabbit. Like he'll be like hammering the wall, and the hammer goes through the wall, like, oh gosh, you know what I mean? Like he's really upset right there, And we was laughing like, yo, this is funny. Look at Esau getting mad, da da da. That's Esau getting mad enough to shoot somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like he puts that hammer, he hammers his finger. What the malarkey? Darn it! You know what I mean? And then, yeah, that's all. That's all it takes. And Esau's ready to just wow out. Esau is ready to just take everybody out, including himself. You know, the level of depravity to immediately X out everybody you say you love. You're sitting there, and they show the pictures. It's never the angry picture of him with, you know, a DUI and, you know, his face all messed up, hair all messed up. Nah, he's always smiling with his family, sitting around a campfire, or, you know, riding on a wave runner with a smile and, you know, one of these. But he just executed his entire family and shot at the cops. Yeah, they're like, yo, Dad, like, this what we doing? We got the turkey dinner right there. You know? Mom just put the butter in the biscuits. Like, what are you doing? That's Esau, man. You know? And he's been doing this. Look at that. Look at that. Our Last Supper is historic. You know what I'm saying? It's written in the scriptures. Their Last Supper, that's it. Esau is mad, and everybody is going to feel his wrath. His family, and he's going to start shooting at the cops. You know? Then he's going to unalive himself, and then the media is going to say, mental illness is real. If you're dealing with mental illness, it's a little bit more than mental illness. Everybody keeps doing it, you know, on the Edomite side of things. All right? So, let's talk about what happened in Billings, Montana.
A tragic situation unfolding in
Slovakia. Let me share it. Billings, Montana. The uncle was getting kicked out. The uncle said, if I'm leaving, I'm taking everybody with me. And he did. For real.
A tragic situation unfolded in Billings, where recovery efforts continue in a West End neighborhood following a shooting and a house fire. And new tonight at 6 o'clock, the Associated Press is reporting the shooter's identity as 44-year-old Alan Smith. Smith allegedly killed 8 relatives, including 4 children, at a Sunday evening dinner. Here's what it looked like at the scene. Several law enforcement units responding here. Investigators say the incident began as a family disturbance. Police shared a timeline of events. Billings 911 received a call at about 6:01 p.m. for an active shooter at 315 White Star Circle. During the call, 911 operators could hear gunfire in the background. At 6:12 p.m., law enforcement arrived to the scene. Officials report they could hear gunfire at the back of the residence as they arrived. 3 minutes later, at 6:15 p.m., those on scene spotted smoke coming from the house, with flames later fully engulfing the home. By 6:48 p.m., officials say the suspect was accounted for and transported to a local hospital, where he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The Billings fire chief says firefighters were unable to operate normally until the scene with the active shooter was fully secured. Because of this, the fire chief says the victims inside the home could not be pulled out of the fire.
The delay and limited access presented significant challenges. Fire conditions continued to worsen, and the residents ultimately became heavily involved and was consumed by fire.
The public is asked to avoid the area since evidence collection will take several days. NBC Montana will continue to follow this and bring you the latest on air and online.
That's why Esau be messing up, right? But he don't even realize how bad off he got it, right? Esau will minimize things, right, to their own detriment. Meaning, oh, we got a family disturbance over there in Billings, Montana. No, the uncle just opened fire at Sunday dinner, shooting everybody, like 4 or 5 kids and everybody else. But the cops think it's a family disturbance. What's a family disturbance? Like an argument? You know what I'm saying? Billy didn't eat all his vegetables at the table, and he's not going anywhere, and I need the police over here to make Billy eat his daggone vegetables. Family disturbance, the dude done shot everybody and lit the house on fire. You know what I'm saying? The wife murked the husband, and it's assault and battery. These guys are operating a major cocaine trafficking operation in Penn State, but it's a misdemeanor. So we might get kind of like upset, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, man, because that was me. I would have, they would have roofed me. You know what I'm saying? If that was me, then there wouldn't have been no family disturbance. They would have came and tasered me and threw me in the car and da da da, blah blah blah, right? But they don't realize they setting themselves up because those guys with the misdemeanors, they're gonna be out soon. They're probably gonna get beat up a bunch of times in jail, and when they get out, they're gonna be a million times worse. You know, say the wife didn't unalive herself, and she got literally charged with assault and battery for shooting or poking up a cop. She would have been out in a couple years, and then she'll just continue her reign of terror. So let Esau get the lightest sentences so they can come back out and reoffend. I have no problem with it. You know what I mean? Because in reality, they're facing 1,000 years ahead of them of some of the worst type of treatment that, I mean, it's not even known to man. We don't even know how bad it's going to be. He said, double unto her, double according to their works. So the things they did to us, they're going to get double. So they're at the very beginning of this. So all that little tiny misdemeanors and assault, not even deadly weapon, assault and battery, family disturbance, don't let that take you off your square. Stick to the script. Let's go to Esther chapter 9, and we're going to start at verse 12. Baba Gashar.
Khan, this is the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 12. And the king said unto Esther, the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Susan, the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman. What hast thou done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is thy petition? And this should be granted thee. Or what is thy request further? And this should be done.
Khan, so this is the king, right? Talking to Esther, like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do, right? We gonna look at this as well as what we want the Most High to do, what we want the Most High to do to our enemies. So we're going to, since this is Wednesday night, going into our fast, and we're going to meditate at the end of this, type in anybody that gave you problems. You ain't got to put their name and everything, like this, their nationality. If Moab, you know what I'm saying, didn't give you correct change and gave you a hard time, type in Moab, and we're going to meditate towards the destruction of Moab. We're not fasting for what does it say in 58? Slakia. For strife and debate and everything, and you know what I mean, and somebody with the fist of wickedness. We're fighting for our people, just like Esther did. Okay, so we're gonna ask Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai during our fast, during our meditation, during the course of the day, and during the course of the week until we come back and have another class, to have judgment on Moab. Esau's getting on your nerves, type in Esau. So it don't have to be just one person, one group, or whatever. We can have all the heathens down there. Boom, 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 boom. But if something that bothered you and took you off your square or tried to take you off your square, type in the nationality. We're going to pray on it. We're going to fast. We're going to meditate. And we're going to watch the destruction of this group. We're going to write it down. And we're going to come back next week and see what the Lord did. And you know it's going to be harsh. Let's go to verse 13.
Khan, this is the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 13. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews, which are in Susan, to do tomorrow according unto this day decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
Khan, so Haman made those gallows for Mordecai, and not only did he get hung on them, but his 10 sons. So Most High about that wet work. It ain't just, he's over 30, he's over 40, you know what I'm saying? He lived his life, now I can take him out. No, he will take out some kids, man. You know what I'm saying? The heathens' children, they're reputed as nothing. Okay, so that had to be some a terrifying experience to not only have your uncle shoot up your damn house, but then light it on fire. And since it's on fire and he started popping at the cops, they couldn't even go in there and save him. They could have still been alive. So getting shot and then burning, you know what I mean, just burning alive in your own house, that has to be top-notch judgment, you know what I'm saying, a way to go out that I'm sure nobody wants. Can you read verse 14?
Con. This is the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 14. And the king commanded it so to be done. And a decree was given at Shushan, and they hung Haman's 10 sons.
Con. So Haman had 10 sons. This family had 8. Man, it's a lot of judgment going around, okay? And Esau has no idea what's going on, but we are going to talk about some things, right? Seeing what they're doing with the bread, trying to poison us, right? Seeing what the Most High is doing, destroying their households, right? Now, this documentary, we're not going to watch the documentary, obviously, because time doesn't permit, but I definitely want you to check this out. I talked to a few brothers about this before, talked to one brother, and I was trying to get him to watch it. He's like, I'm like, did you watch it? Did you see it? He's like, I don't know, man. That's kind of weird or kind of off or whatever he's saying. I was like, yeah, but did you watch it? He was like, I ain't watched the whole thing. So, Israel, just watch it. Just check it out. It's not going to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wicked about it. It does sound weird. I'm gonna let you know that. So this class is talking about the Penn State to State Penn. But last week, as I said, you know, we're going to talk about some spiritual things, right? Spirituals of the law, okay? But things you got to have a spiritual eye to understand and see it, okay? And this might sound very strange, but just because it's strange doesn't mean it's not true. Let's get Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 24. And we'll watch the trailer of this documentary. I'm almost certain it's free on YouTube. So after this class, if you're still up and you're still moving around, you're not going to sleep, check it out, okay? And then you'll understand why I'm talking about this so much, because it's very important. Go ahead, can you bring it out?
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse 24. Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way?
So man's goings is of the Lord, right? We understand that. Now, what if it was something physical that makes men do what they do? You know what I mean? Of course, spiritually, there's plenty of evidence that the Lord could just say something and you just do it. You know what I mean? But physically, have people moving around on, you know, whatever way he wants them to go. And we're going to get more into this after we watch this trailer. All right.
This is the most significant pieces of actual UFO and extraterrestrial data we have ever seen.
Who are we? Are we alone? And where are we actually sitting within the architecture of our universe? I was recently introduced to a surgeon who claims to remove implants, nanotechnology microchips embedded by aliens.
Dr. Roger Lear did confirm I was going to be patient number 17.
He says a little spot here that shows through.
Yeah, it's right there.
Send half the object in for analysis and tell us whether the material is from off planet.
We're talking about something that is highly advanced and fabricated by an intelligence. Is that correct?
Yes.
I don't have any answers. I'm still doubting Thomas on what this could possibly be. I just want all this to end. I just want it removed. This is scarier than hell.
We have a total of 36 elements here.
This is the most astounding array of elements in a single sample I've ever seen.
It's the biggest story of the 20th and 21st centuries. It's the biggest story never told.
I've been trying for months to get a hold of Steve. He's changed his phone number, won't answer any of my messages.
What are your thoughts?
I'm telling you, it's not from here. This sample did not come from our solar system, much less the Earth.
Okay. Ironically, when you look up the movie, it's actually another movie called Patient 17. I don't think that's an accident. I'll get on my conspiracy, platform right now, saying that they made that movie, so if you look it up, you get that one instead of the one we just saw. So, because I think it's that significant, it's important, right? So one of the guys that they showed in there, I'm not gonna give away the movie, but at the same time, just in case you don't watch it, I want you to understand why I keep talking about it. The guy was riding his bike, right? And he had to fall off. He fell off the bike because said it felt like a railroad spike got smashed into his leg, and he's on the ground. He had to get off the bike, roll on the ground. He's in pain. The thing was that big, right? So taking it out, you get to see all the arrays of isotopes and materials and minerals and everything in this tiny little grain of rice that has no business being in his body, but it's tied into what? His nervous system. If you have something that can connect to your nervous system, it can make you calm, it can make you anxious, it can mess up your digestion, it can give you a headache, it can do whatever they want. Do you know what I'm saying? So at the end of this, we're going to watch a couple, it's a video where it talks about missing 411. And these are people that go out into the hiking and everything like that. Esau, he's a man of the woods and all that. And they'll be walking with a group. And then they're like, oh, my stomach hurts. Man, I got to go to the bathroom, man. I can't. I'll keep up with y'all. I'll get y'all, and they're like, yo, we'll wait for you. Like, no, keep going. They go back to the cabin, never seen again. You know what I'm saying? The cell phone was found on the ground. It looked like it just got taken up in the sky. You know what I mean? So they have ways to, alter, how you feel. Because your vagus nerve goes throughout your body, right? Goes into your chest, breathing, your stomach, your throat, brain, right in your brain stem. So it has access to all these organs. If somebody could put something in you to hack your vagus nerve, they control you. You know what I'm saying? So, and the guy had experiences of being taken at night, and he didn't like it. Esau was not happy, I asked Yao about Shemal Shah. I'm like, let me go in the chariots. I want to hang out. I want to chill with everybody. Esau's like, no, I don't want nothing to do with y'all. So there's two type of people, in my opinion, right, that have these implants. And think about it like this. As soon as I say implants, you're like, that's crazy. That's mind-boggling. That's gone. Why do you think that? You think that because the Edomites got to you first. You know what I'm saying? When you think of Bigfoot, you're like, oh, that's Henry and the Hendersons, or that's none of that's true. Because the Edomites got to you first. That's what they do. They make sure by the time you first hear about something, it takes away all the validity because they had it in cartoons, they had it in movies, and you're like, that doesn't make any sense, But that's Esau giving you, that's brainwashing. You know what I mean? He brainwashed you already to think, quote unquote, alien implants is no way that's true. He brainwashed you to think that Bigfoot, no way that's true. But you got to see things with clearer eyes. You know what I'm saying? At one point in time, you might have heard blacks are the real Jews. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Until somebody broke it down to you, like, oh, that makes perfect sense. You know, because they get to you first. Okay? So man's goings of the Lord. All right? And that's a good documentary to watch. Watch it with your spiritual eye. You know what I mean? Don't watch it with the worldly view of things. Let's continue. All right, let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 6. Apparently, tornado is the word of the day. France caught them. Germany caught them. Delaware caught them. Long Island, you know what I'm saying? Long Island got decimated with tornadoes. God ain't playing, man. You know, he's in the whirlwind and the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. So, God.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 6. The wind goeth towards the south, and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continuously, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits.
God. It just opens up. Now, the high pressure system and the way the El Nino and El Nina, sure thing. You know what I'm saying? These tornadoes been hitting all the right spots, meaning like, you know, they're not missing. It's not like an accident. Some places, of course, with tornadoes, it can hit a whole neighborhood and hop over somebody's house. So you see all the person's bathrooms over there and the couches over there, and all the neighbors are destroyed, but that one house is looking good. You know what I'm saying? So stay encouraged, Israel, to keep following these laws, statutes, commandments to the best of your ability. So when a tornado does happen to occur around you, that the Most High will have you protected.
We've got some astonishing storm video from the Northeast. Astonishing is the word. It shows a tornado. Look at this on New York's Long Island, a rare sight in this area. A beach club was heavily damaged. That was one of at least 3 tornadoes reported yesterday. The system dumped up to 7 inches of rain, causing flooding from Ohio to New Jersey. It was so nasty last night. Some people had to be rescued by boat. Jared Ochacher is at the scene of the tornado damage in Atlantic Beach. That's near New York's JFK Airport. Jared, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gail. This is a rare sight in New York. Tornado damage along the beach. Right behind me at a beach club, you can see the beginning of the destruction. Benches flipped over and cabanas torn to shreds. But police say the worst of the destruction is closer to the shore in an area that's been blocked off.
That is a tornado, and oh my God, it is spinning around.
Dangerous storms hammered the East Coast yesterday, churning up this waterspout just east of New York City. Witnesses reported it came on shore, turning into a tornado.
Another tornado coming in. Response to Sun and Surf Beach Club.
It destroyed rows of cabanas at this beach club on Long Island, leaving behind a mess of splintered wooden beams and lawn chairs.
It was over in like seconds, though. That was it. By the time I kind of opened my eyes, it felt like everything was gone. Like the roof was gone, everything outside was a mess.
Matthew Stark says his family have been coming to the Sun and Surf Beach Club for decades.
My cousins just brought down their newborns. So that's like another generation, able to see the beach club, and now it's, it's gone.
The fire department estimates at least 100 people were there when the storm hit, but nobody was seriously injured.
Just by the grace of luck that a lot of people weren't hurt here, because this beach club is a very popular place during the summer.
The same storm flooded streets in Brooklyn and northern New Jersey, leaving cars stuck in rising water, and also flooded subway stations in New York City. The severe weather stretched south to Dover, Delaware, where a confirmed twister ripped the roofs off motels, took down power lines, and littered streets with debris.
When it started raining, we started seeing pieces of buildings flying, and then we ran in the bathroom because we were scared.
Another suspected tornado in southern Pennsylvania tore the wall of this building down and ripped apart the roof of this high school. The beach club is closed in the meantime while workers clean up the mess. And this is the first tornado that the area has seen in 5 years. Vlad?
All right, nice job, Jared Oshasha, reporting for us. Nice to have you on CBS Mornings. Thanks so much.
Yeah, so let's unpack a little bit of that. You know, to see Esau, he said the newborn was down, you know what I mean? It's generations, you know, generations ago, that was Gad, you know what I'm saying, living there. But they took over and they're like, man, this is our place, you know, we come down here all the time, you know, decades, you know, we've been down there for decades, to the beach club. And the Most High destroyed their beach club. They interviewed Jake, the fire chief. He said, by the grace of luck. What's the grace? What's the grace of luck? Is there such thing as that? Grace of luck? Jake, come on, man. You know what I mean? But what it ultimately comes down to is, you know, the Lord ain't playing, and this is something we have to understand in these latter days. Let's get Jeremiah 23 and verse 19, because he certainly talks about it. The Lord certainly let us know, you know, this is what he's going to do in the latter days, and we're seeing it. France got decimated. France was in bad shape, man. Germany, same thing. You know? God.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 19. Behold, a whirlwind of the Lord is going forth in fury, even a grievous whirlwind. It shall fall grievously upon the head of the wicked.
Con, it's not making no mistakes. Who it you know, hits. You know what I mean? Give him a head tap. You know, little roof falls on people's heads. You know, Sis sent a video of the Heinz ketchup spot over in Delaware. Heinz ketchup. If you come to find out you didn't get your Heinz ketchup, you in the grocery store, like, there's no Heinz ketchup. Yeah, because a tornado hit it, you know, that messed up that factory. You know, maybe in a month or two they have to do a recall saying there's shards of glass in the ketchup because there's shards of glass in the ketchup. Can you read verse 20?
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 20. The anger of the Lord shall not return until he have executed, until he have performed the thoughts of his heart. In the later days, Salakia, in the latter days, ye shall consider it perfectly.
Gotta consider it, man. We in the latter days, you know. The anger of the Lord shall not return. He's going to do what he says he's going to do, you know. He says he's in a whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. So we start seeing them clouds looking ominous, and then it starts getting a little whirlwind. You know, like it says in Ecclesiastes 1:6, starts the wind starts flowing continually. You're like, man, Lord, or you not man, but you know, no disrespect. You be like, Lord, please protect me. You know what I mean? Protect my family, protect people I love. Bubba Kashar. But everybody else, man, ain't nothing you can do about it, man. You know what I'm saying? People want to do what they want to do and then cry out to the Lord, you know, at the last minute. You know, been a whole demon their entire life, and they see that tornado. Lord, please help me. It's a possibility that he will hear them prayers, but at the same time, if he doesn't, it's you know, it's no surprise, you know, because the Lord literally knows our hearts. He knows our minds. All right. Let's get to this. From Penn State to the state pen. Dang. Let's get Job chapter 8 and verse 22. Oh, man. Imagine seeing that little Billy. You know what I mean? Parents on, you know, watching the nightly news. Get a phone call like, turn on the nightly news. Is that Billy? Apparently he was selling tons of coke. Like Nino Brown at the Carter at school. They gotta go to church, Sunday church, you know, kind of put their head down a little bit. Pastor don't want to say, you know, okay, let's get the elephant in the room, okay? You know, we are a diabolical group of people. We are all sinners. You know what I'm saying? We used to lynch people. We used to lynch black men at picnics after this church, same church. And now our kids are selling dope. You know what I mean? The football coach is abusing all the children, Sandusky. But let's cope. Let's cope and talk about per capita. Let's talk about that. Trayvon Martin was taking pictures with his middle finger. Just whatever to make us feel better. They can't get it. No accountability. And I see that as Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, just hardening Pharaoh's hearts, because they're all little pharaohs. You know what I mean? They all had us in slavery at one point in time. So all these little pharaohs constantly getting they heart hardened, you know what I mean, getting their neck stiffened just to prepare them for the next judgment. God is great and terrible. You know what I mean? And that's the word of God saying that. I can't even say that God's terrible. He said he's terrible. So I'm going to take his word for it because I can see it. Kai, can you bring it out?
This is the book of Job, chapter 8, verse 22. They hate thee should be clothed with shame, and the dwelling place of the wicked should come to naught.
Yes, you got to get out of the dorms, okay? You got to get out of the dorms. Matter of fact, you cannot get any public housing. You're done. You are going to be a convicted felon. At least some of them are going to get charged with felonies. I mean, you can't have a major drug operation of cocaine, you know what I'm saying, and not get a felony charge. But some of them got misdemeanors, but it doesn't matter. As soon as you Google them, they're like, oh, so you were up Penn State selling cocaine. Don't think you're going to be working here, you know?
In-state connection, putting Freeway Ricky Ross and Big Meech and them to shame. Peace and blessings, all praises to the Most High, and it has come to fruition. Things that I already knew, that the white boys at these predominantly white institutions, or PWI, are heavily involved in the D-rug trade. They said about 12 people from this fraternity, or as someone called it, a gang, was manufacturing, moving, shaking and baking, willing and dealing, hustling and blustling that white girl throughout the campuses. Now, the article started off with the alleged drug ring and all of those things. No, this is true facts that they were doing this. Now, mind you, the first guy got arrested in 2024, and it took them 2 years to get the whole ring operation intact. Now, my question is, where are the RICO charges? You know, racketeering and corrupt organizations charge that they hit all the other black brothers with. Where this is a RICO charge, this is a continuing criminal enterprise ran under the guise of a fraternity. They said they had people in the fraternity that wanted to pledge. You know, you have to do things like get paddled and, you know, all those things. No, they were bagging up grizzams for distribution throughout the whole state. Now, the thing about it is, you see the reaction from, you know, the two white people. It's no big deal. You know, it's just a couple of students. It's 4 out of 40,000. And, you know, it's just been no big deal. Boys will be boys. We're going to move on. So we're going to have to watch this case and see how they prosecute those criminals, those D-rug dealers, those violent felons. You know, anytime you sell drugs, you have to be violent, right? I'm going to let y'all listen to this law and crime expose that kind of goes deep until this corrupt organization ran by these violent white thugs selling D-rugs to wholesome students who are just trying to pursue their education. Just watch.
The evidence showed that cocaine was primarily packaged at the fraternity houses and that packaging was done by fraternity brothers and oftentimes pledges.
The Attorney General of Pennsylvania has just announced a bombshell criminal case against 14 people in connection with an alleged sprawling cocaine trafficking operation involving former Penn State University students and fraternities. We have the alleged evidence, the shocking allegations, and more details on how this case unfolded. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Between 2023 and 2024, large amounts of cocaine, kilos, were brought from Philadelphia and New York to State College. where they were cut and packaged for sale primarily to Penn State students. The two main dealers, the top of the chain, if you will, were senior members of the Delta, Upsilon, and Sigma Chi fraternities.
That is Pennsylvania Attorney General Dave Sunday announcing criminal charges against 13 former Penn State University students and a student's father. So you're talking 14 people in total, all in connection with this alleged cocaine trafficking operation that was occurring through two off-campus fraternity houses. And as laid out at yesterday's press conference and on the AG's website, Agostino Abatiello and Thomas Robinson are accused of being at the top, the big fish, the main suppliers who would make these trips to Philadelphia and New York for these large quantities of cocaine. And as we'll get into, it's that alleged travel, that alleged sophistication, that alleged complexity, which adds to the charges. Now, keep all this in mind, okay? Because I have a lot more detail from a court filing that I will get into, okay? And as I pledged you before, I think one of the most shocking aspects of this case is that pledges, so fraternity pledges, you know, the freshman students who are trying to be accepted into a fraternity, that they were allegedly directed to cut and package the cocaine. Now, here's a better sense of the charges as presented to a grand jury. Remember, a grand jury, the standard is really low to get back criminal charges, right? There has to be sufficient probable cause. But I want you to listen to this and listen very carefully to not only the wild allegations in general and the charges, but particularly against the father, who we believe to be Paul Robinson.
Agostino Abatiello, Thomas Robinson, and two others, Mohammed Harabi and Lars Ziepvat, are charged with felony corrupt organizations because this was a coordinated and organized cocaine trafficking operation with regular trips to those source cities and large amounts of cocaine being brought back to these fraternities. They are also charged with conspiracy, dealing in proceeds of unlawful activity, and related offenses. A fifth person, Robert Zanola, is charged with felony conspiracy and criminal use of communication facility and related misdemeanors. These are the 5 primary dealers. The 8 other student-age defendants in this case have been charged with misdemeanor counts of drug possession and paraphernalia. The only non-student charge is Thomas Robinson's father, Paul Robinson, who we allege took steps to conceal evidence, including a safe containing drugs and cash, and obstruct this investigation.
And AG Sunday emphasized at least twice during this press conference that despite the gravity and the seriousness of these charges, and we'll talk about the evidence in a minute, all these players, all these defendants are innocent unless proven guilty. And I'll get into the alleged evidence in a minute, but my gosh, wow, right? And when I heard, let's say, lower tiered individuals being charged with misdemeanors, first thing I thought about is, okay, do we have potential cooperating witnesses, lower level offenses, maybe plea deals possible in the works? Can they be that connective tissue? Are they going to testify against the big fish, the organizers, the suppliers? I want you to keep that in mind when we talk about this court filing in a minute. But when you have a complex operation like this, it's about getting the masterminds, right? The ones who organized all this. But just to be clear, those charged are Agostino Abatiello, Thomas Robinson, Mohammed Harabi, Lars Ziepvat, Robert Zanola, Liam Smith, Michael Brogno, Caden Howe, Connor Hurley, Seth Beardsley, Kyle Ridpath, Daniel Price, Charles Wiseman, and Paul Robinson. But a few more interesting tidbits from this presser. First of all, why are we only seeing charges now?
With the charges dating back to 2023 or the investigation, some might ask why weren't these folks arrested earlier if they were doing this amount of drugs?
So the incidents occurred during the course of 2023, 2024, and that's when obviously we then were brought in. Investigations of this nature take time. They're very detailed, and what we wanted to do was make sure that we took the time to arrest all of these individuals so that we could do our best to root out this criminal organization to stop it from being able to continue to deal cocaine in the future.
Oh, and when Sunday was asked about hazing related charges for the pledges, right? Allegedly being directed to do all this. He said this is an ongoing investigation, so perhaps keeping the door open for future charges. What about the school's responsibility, the school's knowledge?
I know there may be many questions about the university in regards to these students and this conduct. This is very serious criminal conduct. There was nothing junior or childlike about this type of conduct. This was an upper level trafficking organization for this region in Pennsylvania. In fact, multiple witnesses who testified in front of the grand jury referred to Battiello as the largest dealer of cocaine for Penn State University students. Regarding the university's knowledge or actions in response to this conduct, in consideration of the confidential nature of the grand jury proceedings and ongoing active prosecutions, I can say this. We did not hear of any drug packaging happening on Penn State's campus. Again, the packaging happened at off-campus fraternity houses. And the actual drug dealing was largely from friend to friend, fraternity brother to fraternity brother, acquaintance to acquaintance, and at fraternity houses and or during parties or social engagements.
Seems to me kind of suggesting the university may be separated from all this, but maybe a question that may arise somehow in the form of disciplinary action or maybe even litigation. I mean, the New York Post reports that Penn State has suspended Delta Upsilon while it investigates these allegations. They also announced that Sigma Chi is not recognized by the university, actually operates outside of its supervision. Andrea Dowhauer, Penn State's vice president for student affairs, had the following statement released, quote, "We are horrified by these serious allegations against current and former students. Criminal activity, including hazing, such as this, has no place at our institution, and we will cooperate with law enforcement in any way we can. We will continue to enhance our efforts around health and safety and hazing educational efforts for all our organizations." Put that to the side. So accompanying this announcement was the release of an affidavit of probable cause and a statement of findings of fact from the grand jury. I want to read you sections from that because it provides a lot more details about how this whole case unfolded, how people were investigated, the evidence, the potential evidence, and more specifics of this investigation. So it says, quote, "The grand jury is investigating a case which began in September 2024, wherein Detective Donald Paul of the State College Police Department initiated an investigation into a cocaine distribution ring being operated in State College, Pennsylvania. Early in the investigation, Detective Paul was able to develop confidential informant, CI, that conducted several controlled purchases of cocaine from an individual whose sources was associated with two fraternities at Penn State University, Delta Upsilon and Sigma Chi. Detective Paul told the grand jury that a controlled purchase is a method used to buy illegal drugs using a CI who is under the control of law enforcement. That is exactly what I expected from this case. That's what I expected when I was listening to that press conference from AG Sunday. Using a CI, a confidential informant, or informants like this, it is key. It is key to seeing how an alleged operation worked, who was involved, creates that connective link. You're able to get the substances in question, test them, link back to who's purchasing, who's selling, who's supplying. That is a link. That is what you need in a complex organization. The filing continues. After several controlled purchases, Detective Paul, along with the State College Police Department, arrested Thomas Robinson, who was selling cocaine from the fraternity Delta Upsilon. Robinson was charged with the deliveries to the CI, as well as items seized after a search warrant was executed on his room at the fraternity. By the way, a defense attorney will try to, hammer away at the search warrant, hammer away at the CI, and also the circumstances surrounding that transaction, who initiated what, things like that, just to keep an eye out for. Quote, a total of 6 controlled purchases were made from Robinson between September 2024 and December 2024. Frequency matters. The drugs were sent to the Pennsylvania State Police Crime Lab for testing. This is what I talked about before. The drugs sold by Robinson were confirmed to be cocaine, and the total weight between the controlled purchases and seizure from Robinson's room totaled 73.8 grams of cocaine. After Robinson's arrest, this is key, he cooperated with law enforcement and gave information about his source of illegal narcotics. Robinson told police that Agostino Abatiello, who was a Penn State student and member of the Sigma Chi fraternity, was his source for cocaine. Robinson explained that he obtained cocaine from Abatiello on numerous occasions. So now you have an alleged positive ID of the drugs and reported cooperation from a key figure in this case. Again, I go back to the idea, potential deal for testimony, if it's on the table, but you have alleged confessions, statements, and while potentially subject to defense attorneys trying to quash those, keep them out of a trial, it could be said to be potentially damning evidence, right? Particularly if these are recorded interviews with Robinson. But to give you an idea.
All right. You know, cooperating witnesses, major drug trafficking organization, Penn State. You didn't know that they're selling dope at your college. Big dope too. 73 grams. That guy's moving kilos. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, if you have somebody living in your dwelling place that's selling drugs, and they get caught, they taking your house and, you know what I mean, your assets, and they're saying they're gonna tie it all back to the drug activity going on in your house. But not so with Penn State. Penn State's like, well, this hazing incident by current and former students, we don't accept hazing. Hazing is when all those fraternities do hazing. These guys are selling drugs. From Penn State to the state pen, be sitting on the toilet singing love songs in the bullpen. Isn't that what Jadakiss said? If you was in the state pen, I have you on the toilet singing love songs or something like that. Those guys are going to get abused in jail. Oh my goodness. But you never know, because we all know how this works. They'll we don't want them to ruin their life. Remember the guy was scraped some girl, I think it was a college student. He was a swimmer, I think in Indiana, something like that. Scraped some college student in behind a dumpster, and the judge was like, "Well, we don't want jail to ruin his life." I'm sorry, what? And then more recently, some young boy, I think he was like in high school, he did it to two girls and choked one of them to the point where she had to get like neck surgery, and he didn't get no jail time. You know what I mean? Because he probably reminded the judge of his nephew. Boys will be boys. You know what I mean? But you know, we could get caught up on that, or just realize that there's releasing these degenerates back onto the streets to offend again and mess up more Edomite's life. Hey, I'm all for it. Let's get Psalm chapter 1 and verse 4. Doesn't get more funnier than this. They were talking about us, how we do this and we do that, and then the big time drug dealers, right? They're moving the weight. Jake, a little nickel and dime, get a little re-up, get some sneakers, maybe a bite to eat. You know what I mean? Not downplaying it at all, but we know who's bringing it in, and they got access. They got cartel keys. All right, Con, can you bring it out?
Con, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 1, verse 4. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away.
Slacky, I meant 2 and 4, but that's still a good one. Yeah.
Slacky.
Con, they're gonna get they're gonna get thrown away in the chaff of the wind. Con.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 2, verse 4. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision.
You can't tell me how about Shemal Shai is not laughing at this, that the angels aren't laughing at the fact that these Edomites that went to Penn State are now going to the state pen. That's just funny. It's a play on words. You tell me they don't think it's funny? It's hilarious. Can you read the next verse?
Con. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 2, verse 5. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure.
Con. So this is just another building block or tumbling block of Esau falling off the mountain. You know what I mean? He was high on the hog. You know, he's at the top of the mountain, but it said what? The valley is going to be, the mountain's going to be made low and the valley is going to be exalted. Okay, so as they go down, we go up. Let's get Psalm chapter 147 and verse 6. They had their time to rule. You know what I mean? That's what is crazy with these black Christians are like, yo, Esau, he needs to be able to make it. You know, he should, this white man should be able to come into the kingdom with me. Like, how many different kingdoms can they have, man? Like, you kidding me? You know what I mean? From the Greek to the Romans, Greco-Roman, America, all these different, you know what I mean? Edomite countries, France, Germany, all that. Like, how many kingdoms do you want them to have? They had rulership for centuries. You know? So now that we're getting a little, you know, getting the boot off of our neck, you want them to show up with me. Hey, bud, what's going on? Let's go drink some wine with your Habashai. Doesn't make any sense, man. Just me saying that almost makes me want to throw up. Okay. Con, can you bring that out, King?
Con, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 147, verse 6. The Lord lifteth up the meek. He casteth the wicked down to the ground.
Con, so we get lifted up. It's like a seesaw. We getting lifted up, they going down to the ground. It's as simple as that. And it's going to be fun to continue to watch this fall from grace. All right. Now, this is what I was talking about before, the missing 411. You know what I mean? And one thing that has, let's get Jeremiah 50 and 10 while I talk. One thing that it, these three stories talk about, it's the animals. You know what I mean? The animals are like, I have nothing to do with this. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an apex predator that is destroying these people, right? But it's not what you typical predator like a mountain lion or a bear, you know? It's much deeper than that. And we'll talk about more when we get back. But go ahead, can you bring that out?
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, verse 10. And Chaldea should be spoiled. Salakia. And Chaldea should be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, says the Lord.
So they, you know, right now these Babylonians, these modern day Babylonians are looking like a whole meal to these spirits of vengeance that are on the earth. All right, I'm gonna speed it up a little bit, you know, because the guy talks in the middle, in the beginning, but
people are going missing in national parks and forests all over North America under baffling. In 1985, Kevin O'Keefe was a 36-year-old outdoor enthusiast that lived in Sacramento, California. He loved being out in nature, going hiking and camping, and in fact, he had always wanted to go camping in Alaska. By the summer of 1985, Kevin was actually doing research on areas in Alaska that he could potentially go camping, and he settled on this area called Glacier Bay National Park, which even by Alaskan standards is particularly wild and totally remote. Kevin planned to go camping on his own, so he decided he would need to take a class on how to survive the Alaskan wilderness because he's going to be out there by himself and he's chosen this place that's incredibly rugged. So he actually enrolled and participated in a class teaching you how to go camping in Alaska. Then on September 20th of 1985, he flew from Sacramento to Juneau, Alaska, where he commuted his way up to Glacier Bay National Park. When he arrived at the park's headquarters, he went up and introduced himself to the park rangers that were working there. He told them he'd be over near the Wolf Point area, which was an area right against the water. And he said he was going to be here for about 3 weeks. He planned on leaving on October 10th. So everybody who works there is aware that there's this guy, Kevin O'Keefe, who's going to be by himself for almost 3 weeks camping near the water. No one in Kevin's family or any of the park rangers heard from Kevin for the next couple of weeks. But the whole point of this trip was basically to escape reality and go live in nature for a few weeks, so no one's raising any red flags. A few weeks later, on October 8th, which is 2 days before Kevin said he was planning to leave the park, which he told park rangers and they knew he was there, a couple of park rangers were in a boat patrolling some waterways around Wolf Point, which is the area where Kevin was camping. The rangers decided to take a bit of a detour to get inside of Wolf Point and actually check in on Kevin and just see how he was doing, because they knew he was out here by himself. They're making their way down, and as they turned this last corner where they could finally see Kevin's sight, immediately they knew something was wrong. The first thing they noticed was Kevin's tent was not in the area that it was supposed to be in. There was kind of a designated spot on the soil where you'd place your tent, but his tent was actually down a few meters on this beach that butted up against his campsite, and some of his gear was outside of his tent, not strewn everywhere, but outside of his tent, like you had placed it outside. As they're looking at his tent, they realized that the top strut that kind of held the top of the tent together was folded down. It looked like it had broken right in the middle. They called out for Kevin. He was nowhere around, and they kind of rationalized what they saw. They thought, he's leaving in a couple of days. My guess is he's probably preparing his campsite for an exit. Maybe he went out to, go on a day hike or something. I'm sure everything is fine. So they leave and come back the next day just to double check. And when they arrive, there's been no change. The tent is still sitting down on the beach with that strut collapsed. His gear is sitting outside of his tent, like his sleeping bag and sleeping pad. It's clear that Kevin has not been to this campsite since the last time they saw him, which was 24 hours earlier. So now they're outright concerned, and they decide to launch a search for Kevin. They began flying little airplanes over the area where Kevin's campsite was and the surrounding areas. No sign of Kevin. They brought ground searchers with dogs onto his campsite. They're looking everywhere. No sign of Kevin, but they did discover at his campsite that virtually all of the equipment you would expect to be at a campsite in Alaska of someone who's staying there for a few weeks, well, it was all there. He had his backpack fully packed as if he was going to go on a hike. It had food, it had extra clothes and water. It was all packed right up against a tree. All of his sleeping equipment and his cooking equipment. And oddly, there was lots of food that Kevin still had left at his campsite that was out in the open, and no animals had touched it, which is a complete anomaly. As they began searching the outer areas of his campsite, dogs were able to locate Kevin's boots, his glove liner, and his hat. They were tucked away in this gully about a half mile away from this campsite. That they were not visible to the naked eye. It took dogs finding it to locate these items. After finding these items, the early speculation was it looks like Kevin was attacked by bears or some other predator. But the park rangers, who knew this area extremely well and had seen other bear attacks, said, I don't think this is a bear attack, because there's no sign of a death struggle anywhere at his camp. If you get attacked by a big predator, you're going to fight for your life to save yourself. You're going to grab onto things and flail around. It's fairly obvious, and there's none of that. There's also no blood or remains or any indication that someone was hurt in this space. And if an animal had come into this camp and attacked Kevin and eaten Kevin, they certainly would have taken the food that was out and about in the campsite. But none of the food was touched. As the investigation continued, rangers would say how strange it was that no wild animals are coming into this campsite. There's no activity. There's nothing in the area. It's like the animals are staying away from Kevin's campsite. When they couldn't find any sign of Kevin, the investigators went to speak with Kevin's family and asked them, did he have any signs that he was looking to end his own life? Do you have any information you can give us about him? And they said, no, he was really happy, well-adjusted, excited about this trip. He had taken a class to prepare himself for this trip. He told us that he planned on taking a couple day hikes, but no overnights. And he had no plans to meet other people while he was there. He was just looking to be on his own in nature. But after just a few days, they had to call the search off because there was no sign of this guy. He was just gone. Knowing that all of Kevin's gear was still located at his campsite means he did not leave to go on one of those day hikes that he had told his family that he might be going on. Because going into the wilds of Alaska without your gear is a death sentence. So Kevin must have been at his campsite when something horrible happened to him. But we know it wasn't an animal attack because there was no sign of that and no animals were coming near this campsite. So if it wasn't an animal attack, then what was it that caused his tent to shift down to the beach and have his gear strewn about on the sand? And have his boots and glove liner and hat be located a half mile away in some gully? And where's Kevin? In 2000, Patrick Whalen was 33 years old, and he was described as being an outdoor enthusiast, bordering on full-blown survivalist. He had hiked thousands of miles across the Pacific Crest Trail and had spent hundreds of hours camping inside of national parks, in particular, the Glacier National Park in Montana. That was his absolute favorite place to go. In fact, he spent so much time there that the park rangers recognized him and knew him by name. On November 2nd, 2000, Pat was driving in Kiowa Junction in Montana when he hit a deer. Witnesses say that he stopped his truck, he got out, walked over to the deer, pulled it to the side of the road, took a pillow out of his truck, put it under the deer's head, and then he went and got food from his truck and put it near the deer's mouth, and then he just walked away. He abandons his truck. It's unclear whether his truck was not operational at this point or if he was just abandoning his truck, but either way, his truck would get towed the next day. 6 months after the deer incident, Patrick's father called the park rangers at the Glacier National Park in Montana, and he said, "I haven't heard from my son in months, and I'm worried about him. I can't get in touch with him. If there was one place he would be, it would be at your park. Have you seen him?" The park rangers, who again, they all knew Pat, they said, "We haven't seen him, but we'll keep an eye out for him." A couple of weeks later, 2 of these park rangers are out on a routine patrol through the park when they come across a very odd scene. They saw this blue tent sitting in the middle of this campsite. There's no one around it, and the middle strut that held the tent together was collapsed. They yelled out to see if anybody was inside the tent to make sure everything was okay, but no one calls back. They walk over to the tent itself, and they can tell that this tent has been out here for some time. It looks very weathered and sun-bleached, but there's no tears in the fabric, and all of the zippers are shut. When they opened up the tent, there was no one inside, but there were all the things you would expect to find inside of a tent at a campsite. Water, food, stove, boots, clothes, it's all in there. But again, the tent is collapsed, and based on the pattern of sun bleaching on the outside, it had been collapsed for some time. When the park rangers filed their report about what they found, they noted that it was really odd that no animals had ransacked this tent, because clearly it had been sitting here unoccupied for a while and there was food in the tent, but no animals had touched it. Authorities show up and they begin searching the area for Pat. There's no sign of him. They bring out cadaver sniffing dogs. They don't pick up any scent. One of the issues they were up against was they had no idea how long it had been since he had arrived here and then subsequently disappeared, because they actually went to the tow yard where he had had his truck towed following hitting that deer 6 months earlier, and his truck was still sitting in the tow lot. So he hadn't claimed his truck. That was 6 months earlier, and here we are, and there's this tent in the middle of the woods, and we have no idea where he is. But the most interesting and terrifying thing that was discovered was inside of his tent, there was an empty buck knife case. So the sheath was there, no knife. David Paulides offers a very interesting theory about why it was there. He suggests that while Patrick was living at this campsite, he must have been in his tent one night and he hears something outside of his tent that apparently was formidable enough that he felt the need to take his knife out and go out into the open to confront it. He gets out. The mosquitoes were very bad in that area, so he probably hopped out, zipped his tent shut for a minute. He's standing there with his knife to confront whatever this is, and then he doesn't go back into his tent. Whatever was out there apparently got the best of Pat. But we can't just say he was attacked by an animal, because there was no blood, there was no remains, there was no sign of a death struggle in that campground, and the food that was in his tent was untouched. No animal had tried to rip open the tent to get to the food, something that animals do after they attack people at their campsites. So the million-dollar question is, if it wasn't a wild animal that he was getting out of his tent with his knife to confront, then who or what was it? And where's Patrick? In April of 1976, 19-year-old Stephen Thomas was asked by his good friend Bruce Weaver if he wanted to join Bruce and Bruce's 4 other friends on a hike in New York State. Steve didn't know these 4 others, but he really liked Bruce and he loved hiking, so he agreed to go. The mountain they were going to climb was Mount Marcy. It's one of the biggest mountains on the East Coast, and it's very rugged, it's very windy. The temperatures drop dramatically towards the summit. It's a dangerous place unless you treat it with respect. On the morning that Steve was leaving for this hike, his mother told him that she had a bad feeling about the hike and that maybe he should just cancel, because it didn't seem like a good idea to be hiking such a rugged mountain with people he didn't know. But Steve, who had a lot of experience hiking, said it was totally fine. He was eager to go and that he would see her in a couple of days. On April 12th, 1976, the 6 men are making their way up Mount Marcy, and they get near the summit by about 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. And even though they could have pressed on and made their way up to the summit, they were all really exhausted from the trip so far, and they decided they would make camp where they were and they would attack the summit the next day. And they were all eager to do that, with the exception of Steve. Steve didn't want to stop. Steve was sitting in Bruce's tent looking at the map of Mount Marcy, and he said to Bruce, "Hey, do you want to go for a quick walk with me? I just want to walk up the path a little ways." And Bruce was like, "No, man, I'm tired. Let's just go tomorrow." And so Steve just continued to stay up looking at this map. He made tea for himself, and at some point, he folded the map up and said, "Hey, Bruce, I'm just going to walk up the path a little ways. I'll be right back." Bruce told Steve this was a bad idea. Don't go up there on your own. The temperatures are dropping. It's getting dark. It's windy. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. Plus, we're all going to be up there first thing in the morning. So there's no reason to go up right now. But Steve was like, I just don't want to sit here. I'm going to just go. So Steve begins to walk out. The other hikers that he didn't know too well are like, "Hey, man, just stay here." But again, Steve's not listening, and Steve continues up the trail. When Steve left, he must have thought he was only going to be gone for a few minutes because he threw on a rain jacket, this yellow rain jacket, over a t-shirt and pants because he'd been sitting in a warm tent. He just threw on a jacket and he left his backpack. He just walked out with no supplies and began walking up this trail. At the time Steve was walking down that path, the snow was very hard packed, so it was easy to walk on, and there was a full moon, so there was great visibility. So it was a good night to be doing what Steve was doing, albeit if it had just been for a few minutes. So as Steve is walking away from the camp, even though the other hikers were annoyed with him, they weren't concerned. He had loads of hiking experience in Washington State. He was very eager to do this. And again, it was well lit. The snow was hard packed. They're thinking, okay, he'll be gone for a couple of minutes and then we'll see him again and it'll be just fine. After about an hour, it was dark and the temperatures are now well below freezing, and Steve has not come back yet. And he was not dressed for the sub-freezing temperatures. So the hikers walk a little ways down the path and they're yelling out for Steve, but there's no response. They decide that they have to go up the path and look for him because the conditions are going to kill him if he doesn't come back and get in his tent soon. When they go back to their tent to get some of their equipment to go make this trek to go find Steve, one of those 4 hikers that Steve did not know particularly well had brought his dog along for this hike, which apparently he always did. This dog was highly energetic, went everywhere with this guy. He loved hiking. Anytime the dog could go out and go run around, it would do it in a heartbeat. And when this hiker went in his tent to not only get his own gear, but to get his dog and bring his dog with him to go look for Steve, the dog refused to leave the tent. In fact, it cowered in the back of the tent and acted like it was scared of something that was outside of the tent. The dog's owner would tell investigators later that he's never seen his dog act that way. He was acting scared of something to the point where he would stay in the tent and all the hikers would go looking for Steve. The dog would rather be alone in a tent, totally isolated, than leave that tent. That's how scared he was of whatever it was that was out there. So the men go out looking and they can't find Steve. And after a little bit, they end up going back because it's just so dangerous to look for him in the middle of the night. So the group heads back to their tents and they're just praying that he found shelter somewhere on the mountain. The next morning, as soon as the sun came up, the hikers immediately start looking for Steve, yelling for Steve. There's no sign of him. And at some point, half the group leaves and walks the 4 hours down the trail to a vehicle where they could go drive and get authorities, while the other 3 continue to look and stay near the camp just in case Steve were to return. Once authorities were notified, they launched one of the largest search and rescue efforts in the history of New York. They spent 2 weeks combing this entire mountain. Helicopters, dog teams, searchers on the ground. They are looking everywhere. There is no sign of Steve, even though he had this bright yellow jacket on. They can't find anything. He's just totally gone. After the official search was terminated after about 2 weeks, Steve's older brother, Bob, who was 26 years old, in amazing shape and very close with his brother Steve, he quits his job and moves to the Mount Marcy area and spent a whole year searching every inch of this mountain. Veteran park rangers at Mount Marcy would joke that Bob knew the mountain better than they did. Bob had apparently walked over 2,500 miles on Mount Marcy and had summited 600 times or more, and every time he would take a different route and search all along the mountain. He has looked everywhere and he can't find his brother. Although Bob would never find his brother, he did locate the remains of a hiker who had gone missing 3 years earlier, so he was able to provide closure for that family. So why did Steve feel the need to walk up this trail in the first place? And then what was the dog so scared of after Steve vanished? Because the dog never acted that way, but But suddenly something was so terrifying on the outside of their tents that it abandoned its owner and huddled in the tent in fear. And then how could Bob have missed his brother Steve, who was wearing a bright yellow jacket after combing every inch of this mountain? The only logical answer is that Steve is not on the mountain. But if he's not on the mountain, where is he? So like all of the missing 411 cases, we don't know what happened to these people, and we probably never will.
And that is a fact. Okay, so I would definitely recommend the Missing 411 documentaries. You can watch them on YouTube for free. There's one Missing 411, The Hunted. That's with the hunters, and then it's a regular Missing 411, just people just disappearing in the woods, and it's the point of separation is something that I'm looking at. How everybody's together, and then something happens. Do you know what I'm saying? Like with the last part, something happens, and the guy's like, "I just want to go up to the mountain." They're like, "Why? We're gonna go there tomorrow. It's late." Da da da. He's like, "I don't know." You know what I'm saying? It's like man's going to the Lord. I don't know why I want to go up there. And once he goes up there, he's never seen again. Let's get Ecclesiasticus, chapter 39 and verse 28. This is something that, Esau, this is his cup. You know what I'm saying? You're going to drink from this cup regardless. You know what I mean? You know Esau, how much he loves going into the national parks, going into the wilderness, and just, like the first guy is like, he went to Alaska for 3 weeks. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? By yourself in the middle of the woods. That's Esau's thing. I'm pretty sure it's very peaceful and serene, but with grizzly bears and all that, you're not going to catch too many Jakes doing that. You know what I mean? We plain men dwelling in tents, So let's bring that out. Sirach 39 and 28.
God, this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 39, verse 28. There be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In a time of destruction they pour out their force, and appease the wrath of him that made them.
So one of the other videos that, time's not permitting, but he interviews a Navajo police chief. I believe he's a police chief, you know what I mean? But he works in law enforcement on the Navajo reservations. And he's asking about Bigfoot, you know what I mean? He's like, yeah, our ancestors told us about him. We leave him alone, he leaves us alone. You know what I'm saying? You don't even want to look at him, let him do his thing. So it's not like Harry and the Hendersons had to, they watched TV and came up with this. No, this is legit. You know what I mean? And in some of these cases, when Esau's kids is taken, they see a bear running away from the scene, holding the child. And they're like, a bear was holding a child and running up the side of a hill? They're like, yeah. So they think the people are crazy that are seeing it, but, America has done such a great job of, dismissing any type of claim of Sasquatch or anything that could happen like that, that it makes the other person look crazy and they don't even want to talk about it. You know what I mean? So that's where we're at. Check out the Missing 411 documentaries. He has books out. I'm pretty sure they're much more detailed, but it's, you got to watch it, the documentary, or read the book with the spiritual eye in order to grasp what's actually going on. You know what I mean? So there's other places we can go with this. There's brothers getting shot in California wearing a damn hat. You know what I'm saying? Wearing an Astros hat. We could talk about that. And eventually we're going to get into those topics, but, time permitting. Right now, it's crazy things going on where Russia and Ukraine are going back and forth. They've been at war for years. So you're like, what else is new? What else is new is the CIA, the head of the CIA landed in Moscow to talk to Putin. And they're like pretty much tell him like, yo, we know what you're going to do. Don't do it. So what is Putin going to do? He's talking about attacking the United Kingdom because they're making drones. I think Finland, but I know the United Kingdom. They're making drones to attack Russia. So they're like, look, you're making these drones, giving them to Ukraine, and they're attacking us. We're about to bomb you. So America's like, yo, don't do it. Don't you do it. Poland now is putting tanks on the border with Russia. I believe with Russia or Ukraine. I'm not sure, but they're putting tanks on the border. Um, and so that's very important stuff going on that's not really being talked about. So if that continues to transpire, most high willing, we'll bring that out next week. Now I want to show this video. It happened today. So keep in mind, right? We just started this, meditating together for about a month now. So after every class, if you're new, you might not necessarily know, but if you've been rocking out with the content for a little bit of time, you know that this is what we do. How about the Most High God, Yahweh Hashem, Hamashiach Yahushai, done mangled Tibet and Nepal? One of the places that most people think about when it comes to meditation. Slakia. When it comes to meditation, Tibet. Oh, you meditate like a Buddhist. Didn't Dr. Dre say that? I meditate like a Buddhist. I think Jay-Z said it too. But now we're meditating like Hebrews. And the Most High destroyed the eastern part of the world that, historically people have associated with meditation. The Hebrews, there's a changing of the guard. You can feel it. Okay. So keep that in mind. I ain't seen anybody write anything. I don't know if I missed it, but if you have any issue with some type of heathen that you want the Most High to give judgment to this week, type it in the comments. Okay, and we'll deal with that accordingly through Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Now I want you to see what happened to the bet. I don't know the numbers as of yet, but it's pretty intense. Okay, let's see what we got here. So far, they said 160 are no longer with us, and 966 have gone missing, and that number is clearly going to go up. This is what happened, and they don't really know what happened. People said a 4.4 magnitude earthquake happened and tsunami happened in that region, but 4.4 is not a large earthquake, right? And they're saying the result of what happened was equivalent to a magnitude 4.4 magnitude earthquake. That's what the Richter scale said, but earthquake didn't take place. So you tell me what happened. Well, let's watch it.
Oh my God. Oh boy. Lama. Khula anh guys, khula. Oh my God, bhar. Bhar, get out, bhar.
See the birds flying away? Telltale sign. Something bad's about to happen. Now, they don't know what happened. They said an earthquake happened. Some people said global warming and a piece of a glacier fell off from a mountain and hit the what. Nobody knows what happened. All we know is that a lot of people did not make it through the day, and a lot of people are never going to be found again. There's videos online where people, like one person, they're chopped in half. Like that's the force of that water. Like they grab the person's arms and you can see like no half of their body. Like it's pretty morbid, but that lets you know how it's going down. It's like no joke, you know what I'm saying? God ain't playing. So getting those meditators, those Buddhists, fake, idolaters out the way makes room for the real meditators, the real people that talk to Yahweh Shem Yahshai, that talk to the Lord. Okay, that will be us. So let's get it. Let's get Ecclesiasticus chapter 39 and verse 1. Still haven't seen any, somebody pick somebody. You know what I'm saying? Let's pick on the heathens. How about this? Esau. We'll go with Esau. All right. Esau's been catching a lot of wreck from Yahweh Shem Yahushai as of late. Planes crashing, his military crashing, dinner table turned into a shooting range. So let's ask the Most High to continue on with that. Okay. And keep in mind throughout the week, if you're in a cab or something and Elam, is getting on your nerves or whatever like that, you say, okay, Wednesday's class, I'm gonna type in Elam and we're gonna pray on that and fast on it, and the Most High gonna, destroy the heathens. We fighting for our people, and that's how it's going down. We did this before, years ago, and it was serious. It got real. But now we have a plethora of Israelites watching the stream, and that might watch later on. So we're gonna keep this thing going in the right direction, okay? And there's nothing they could do about it. They could crash the internet, but if that happens, you know what to do. You know what I mean? We're gonna keep going in this direction. All right, so we're gonna get Ecclesiasticus chapter 39 and verse 1, and that's gonna let us know, we're doing the what our ancestors did. You know what I mean? We're seeking out the wisdom of the ancient. If you got it, you can bring it out.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 39, verse 1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, but seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies.
All praises. So we are going to Slakia. We're going to finish out with the breathing, you know what I'm saying? Clearing out the cobwebs. Make sure when you breathe, you give belly breaths and bring it up to you right around here, you know what I mean? Expanding your rib cage. Not all like this with your neck and all that. No need for that. Make sure this is an outline, a template. If you cannot breathe in as much as the video goes, then don't. If you can't breathe out as much as the video goes, then don't. This is kind of just an outline. You know what I mean? Make sure you're comfortable. Sit back, close your eyes, relax, and just breathe. If your mind wanders, bring your mind back to your breath. Okay? Follow your breath with your mind. Okay? And other times, if you do this exercise, think about the middle of your head. You know what I mean? That's where your third eye is. Just bring your mind there. But I think with this one, just follow your breath. Okay? And enjoy. honor, and glory to Yahweh Shem Mashiach Yahushua. Judgment on Esau. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be more planes falling out of the sky. I don't know if Russia is going to nuke the UK. I don't know. But what I do know is it's going to be judgment on Esau. The wider Abner for reading and holding it down. You know what I'm saying? Doing the work behind the scenes and everything. And our par, appreciate you. Kwom Yashala, we got next. Make sure you get ready for Feast of Tabernacles, okay? Get your donations in. You know what I mean? A lot of things coming up. Make sure you're ready and prepared for it, okay? Kwom Yashala, we got next. Shalom.
House of Israel. HOI till chariots fly.